where is Jesus? There are some storms that your marriage will hit that will be responded with incredible booming from heaven, revelation from heaven, provision from heaven, protection, breakthrough from heaven. But there are some storms in life, there are some storms in your marriage that you're going to experience. They're going to be met with deafening silence. And you need to process through how to deal with that silence, because silence is distressing. Silence is disturbing. And silence in the storm over an extended period of time will become destructive. But here's the good news. God doesn't want to hurt you. He wants to heal you. He doesn't want to see you discouraged. No, He wants to lift you up. Come on, He doesn't want to have you go through life feeling that you're all alone in this. No, He gives us the Word of God and the Spirit of God, come on, to process through those seasons when it feels like He's gone just a little bit silent in our marriage storm. There are many people here in this room who know what it's like to go through a marriage storm. And you want your healing, and you want your breakthrough, you want your answer, you want your relief, but it feels like God has just gone a little bit quiet. Maybe even you found yourself with your husband or your wife this week sitting at your dinner table, looking at your bills, trying to make ends meet, but it feels like those ends are running away from one another, and you're doing everything right. You're claiming Him as Jehovah Jireh, clap, your provider. You're doing everything right by the book, but it feels like, hey, God, You've gone really quiet in our financial storm right now. Remember back in the day when you were like kind of dating and you couldn't like get enough of each other's voice. Remember you're sitting there on the phone, no, you hang up. No, you hang up. Now the sound of your spouse sounds like nails against a chalkboard. You thought like getting married would be like checking into a field full of flowers where you would frolic forever, but you just stepped into World War III. And you're saying things that you really don't mean, at a volume you wish you could take back. And you run to your bedroom and you close the door, you fall to your knees and you say, God, what's going on here? And it feels like He's just gone a little bit quiet. How about those marriage storms called teenagers? It was only a couple of years ago. They were so innocent. You were doing everything right by the book. The Bible said if you teach them certain things when they were young, they would not depart from these paths. But not only are they departing from these paths, they are running away at a rate of knots. And what makes matters worse is you see your friends and you see their teenagers and how they're all growing closer together, but you see your family splintering and you're starting to point fingers at one another. And you turn towards heaven and you say, hey, God, don't you care about my family? Don't you care about my teenagers? Why does this storm rage, and why are you being so quiet in the middle of it? Mark chapter 4, verse 35, that day when evening came, Jesus said to His disciples, let us go over to the other side. Leaving the crowd behind, they took Him along just as He was in the boat. There were also other boats with Him. A furious squall or a massive storm came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping. The disciples woke Him and said to Him, Teacher, don't you care if we drown? He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, quiet, be still. Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. He said to His disciples, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? They were terrified and asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey Him. I like this story because I see myself and my wife in this story. Just a couple of disciples trying to get from point A through to point B and not drown. And we get told by Jesus to get into a boat. These guys were smack bang in the middle of God's will, if you will. But the storm still brewed. Sometimes difficult seasons befall good people. Where is Jesus when it feels like He's gone just a little bit quiet in my marriage storm? He is still in your boat. He is still in your boat. If you walk away with nothing else out of this session, I want you to have this resonating deep within your being. May this be the booming soundtrack of your marriage as you walk through a storm. He is still in your boat. He hasn't left you. He hasn't forsaken you. The one who promised to be with you to the very end of this age is keeping his promise in this moment. He is still in your boat. When the going gets hot, Jesus doesn't get going. Come on, he is still in your boat. Elvis may have left the building, but Jesus hasn't. Come on, he is still in your boat. And you better say that to yourself, and you better say that to your spouse a few times in the days ahead. Come on, he is still in your boat. Look at the text. He's there with the disciples. The rain is falling on the disciples. The rain is falling on Jesus. The waves were rocking the disciples. The waves were rocking Jesus. The sea was threatening the disciples. The sea was threatening Jesus. If that boat capsized and the disciples would have to make a swim for shore, Jesus would have capsized and would have to make a swim for shore because Jesus was in the boat. Don't let the devil lie to you. That somehow, you know what, you've done too much, or you've splintered too far, or you hurt each other too much, that somehow Jesus goes, I'm giving up. No, he is in your boat. He hasn't left you. Jesus died for us. A blood-stained cross and an empty tomb is proof once and for all that Jesus cares. And you need to hear this. Can someone just receive this in your spirit? You're going to get to the other side. Come on, squeeze your spouse's hand and say, we're going to get to the other side. But we've been fighting for a long time. You're going to get to the other side. Hey, we've been on different pages for a long time. You're going to get to the other side. Hey, I feel so hurt and betrayed. You're going to get to the other side. But I've changed. Yes, you've changed, but he hasn't. You're going to get to the other side. You're getting to the other side.